The market on Virmus Prime was always busy at this hour. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of different worlds moved between the stalls, buying food and supplies. The air smelled like strange spices and recycled oxygen. Bright signs in 20 languages advertised prices and deals. Jiwoo walked slowly through the crowd, trying not to look nervous. Her heart was beating fast. She wore an old jacket with deep pockets. Her hands were shaking slightly as she pretended to examine some fruit at a vendor's stall. She had been planning this for 3 days. The vegetable merchant always turned his back at the same time each afternoon to talk with another seller. The security drones followed predictable patterns. She had exactly 42 seconds to take what she needed and disappear into the crowd. But Jiwoo hated this. She had never stolen anything in her life before coming to this colony world. Back on Earth, she had been a teacher. She had followed rules. She had paid for everything. That person felt like someone from a different lifetime now. The vegetable stall was just ahead. Fresh green produce sat in neat rows under a cooling field. These vegetables were expensive because they were hard to grow on Virmus Prime. The planet's soil was toxic to most Earth plants. Everything had to be grown in special facilities with imported soil and carefully controlled conditions. Jiwoo had saved money for 2 months to buy these vegetables legally. Then Vess had stopped eating. The little one's skin had turned from bright blue to a dull gray. Her big eyes had lost their shine. The doctor at the free clinic had been blunt. Without the right nutrients, Vess would die within a week. The synthetic food paste that the colony welfare office provided was supposed to have everything alien children needed. But it didn't work for Nelveth children. Their bodies needed something specific from fresh plants. Something that couldn't be made in a lab. Jiwoo had filed requests with the colony administration. She had begged the welfare office for help. She had even tried to get loans from 3 different banks. Every door had closed in her face. The system didn't care that 3 children were starving. The system only cared about forms and procedures and waiting periods. So now she was here about to become a criminal. The merchant turned his back right on schedule. Jiwoo moved quickly. Her hands grabbed 4 large vegetables and shoved them into her jacket pockets. The cooling field buzzed as she broke its boundary. She turned and started walking away, forcing herself not to run. 20 steps, 30 steps, almost to the corner. Then the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed above the vegetable stall. A security drone dropped from the ceiling. Its scanners locked onto Jiwoo. A mechanical voice echoed through the market in multiple languages. "Stop, you are suspected of theft. Stop immediately." Everyone in the market turned to look. The crowd parted around her. Jiwoo stood frozen, vegetables still in her pockets. The drone descended until it was level with her face. More drones were coming from other parts of the market. The merchant rushed over, his forearms waving angrily. He was a Quarren with purple skin and multiple eyes. "Thief!" he shouted. "I knew someone was stealing from me." 2 security officers arrived within seconds. They were both Scarth, large reptilian beings with thick scales and permanent scowls. One of them grabbed Jiwoo's arm with surprising gentleness. "Don't resist," he said in decent English. "This will be easier if you cooperate." Jiwoo didn't resist. What was the point? She had been caught. The vegetables fell from her pockets as the officers searched her. They landed on the market floor and she stared at them. Such simple things. Such cheap things for most people, but worth more than gold to her right now. "Why?" the Quarren merchant demanded. "Humans have jobs. Humans have money. Why steal?" Jiwoo looked up at him. Tears were running down her face now, but she didn't care. "My children are starving," she said quietly. "They need these. They're dying without them." The merchant's expression didn't change. "Then you should have bought them. Like everyone else." The security officers scanned Jiwoo's biometric data. One of them looked at his device and frowned. "She works at the water plant. Double shifts most days. She's not a vagrant." The other officer shrugged. "Doesn't matter. Theft is theft. Take her to holding." As they led her away, Jiwoo thought about the 3 children back in her hab unit. Pyrrha would be making dinner from the last of their food supplies. Calm would be doing his homework on the old data pad, and Vess would be lying on her sleeping mat, too weak to play anymore. She had promised them she would bring food tonight. She had promised Vess that everything would be okay. Now she had broken that promise. The holding cell was small and cold. Jiwoo sat on the metal bench and put her head in her hands. The walls were gray. A camera watched her from the ceiling. Through a narrow window, she could see other cells with other prisoners. A guard came by an hour later with a data pad. "You're being charged with theft and tampering with security systems," he said. "Your trial is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Do you have a lawyer?" "No," Jiwoo said. "Do you want a public defender assigned?" "Yes." The guard made a note and walked away. Jiwoo tried not to think about the children, tried not to imagine Pira's face when she realized Jiwoo wasn't coming home, tried not to see Vess getting weaker and weaker with no one to help her. But the thoughts came anyway. She had found the children a year ago in the refugee section of the colony. Their parents had died when their transport ship lost life support. Hundreds of Nalveth had died that day. Only a few children had survived. The colony had put them in a shelter, but the shelter was full, overcrowded, understaffed. Children were dying there because no one had time to figure out what each species needed. Jiwoo had volunteered there for 1 week. Just 1 week. And she had seen Pira sitting alone in a corner, holding her 2 younger siblings and crying. Something in Jiwoo's heart had broken that day. She had knelt down next to them. She had asked their names. And when Pira had looked at her with those big, hopeful eyes, Jiwoo had known she couldn't walk away. Taking them home had been easy. The shelter staff had been happy to have 3 fewer children to worry about. Filing for legal guardianship had been harder. The paperwork was endless. But Jiwoo had done it all. For a year, things had been okay. Hard, but okay. She worked, they ate. They learned English. They became a family. Then the welfare office had changed its policies. The special food allowance for alien children had been cut. The medical subsidies had been reduced. And suddenly Jiwoo couldn't afford the nutrients that Vess needed. She had tried everything. Everything legal. Everything proper. And it hadn't been enough. Now she was here, locked in a cell, while her children waited at home. The night passed slowly. Jiwoo didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling and wondered what would happen at the trial. Would they deport her, send her back to Earth? What would happen to Pira, Calm, and Vess if she was gone? When morning came, the guards took her to the courthouse. The trial was about to begin. She was caught taking vegetables, but her alien kids were starving. Part 2, the courtroom was much larger than Jiwoo had expected. High ceilings stretched up into darkness. Rows of seats were filled with aliens from every species on the colony. Some were there because they had legal business. Others had come just to watch. Jiwoo stood in the defendant's box, a transparent enclosure in the center of the room. Guards stood on either side. She could see everyone, and everyone could see her. 3 judges sat at a raised platform ahead of her. The one on the left was a Veltari, a being made of what looked like living crystal. Light passed through its body in rainbow patterns. It had no face that Jiwoo could recognize, but a voice came from somewhere inside it. The middle judge was a Quarren, similar to the merchant who had caught her. This one had deep green skin and wore formal robes. Its multiple eyes blinked in sequence as it read from a data screen. The judge on the right was a Scarth, larger than the security officers who had arrested Jiwoo. Its scales were dark red and it wore medals on its chest. It looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. A screen behind the judges showed Jiwoo's name and face. Her charges were listed in multiple languages. The whole trial was being broadcast on the colony network. Anyone could watch. The Quarren judge spoke first. Its voice was surprisingly gentle. "This court is now in session. The defendant is Jiwoo, human female, age 32, resident of Vermis Prime for 3 standard years. The charges are theft of property and tampering with security systems. How do you plead?" Jiwoo's public defender, a tired-looking human man who had met her 5 minutes before the trial, whispered, "Say guilty or not guilty." "Guilty," Jiwoo said. Her voice sounded small in the large room. Murmurs went through the crowd. The Veltari judge's crystals chimed softly. "The defendant pleads guilty. Prosecution may present evidence." The prosecutor stood up from his table. He was a Quarren named Thilax, wearing expensive-looking clothes. He moved to the center of the floor with confidence. "Honored judges," Thilax began. "This case is simple. The defendant stole property worth 200 credits. She was caught in the act. She has confessed. There is no question about her guilt." He waved a hand and the screen behind the judges changed. It showed security footage from the market. Jiwoo watched herself take the vegetables. Watched herself try to walk away. Watched the moment the alarm went off. But this is not the whole story, Thilax continued. Our investigation shows this was not the first time. We found evidence that the defendant has tampered with security systems before. She studied the drone patrol patterns. She planned this theft carefully. More images appeared on the screen. Data logs showing Jiwoo's movements in the market over the past week. Timestamps showing when she had been there. Notes she had written to herself about security. Jiwoo felt sick. They had found everything. The defendant is not some desperate person acting on impulse, Thilax said. She is a calculating criminal who believed she could get away with theft. Our merchants work hard. They follow the law. They pay their taxes. Why should this human be allowed to steal from them? The prosecutor looked at Jiwoo with cold eyes. I recommend the maximum penalty. Deportation and a lifetime ban from all Galactic Commerce Union worlds. We must send a message that theft will not be tolerated. He sat down. The courtroom was silent. The Quarren judge looked at Jiwoo's defender. Does the defense wish to present evidence? The public defender stood slowly. He looked uncomfortable. We have no evidence to present. The defendant admits she took the vegetables. But we ask the court to consider the circumstances. He gestured to Jiwoo. My client has 3 alien children in her care. These children are Nalveth orphans. They require specific nutrients to survive. Nutrients that are found in the vegetables she took. The Scarth judge leaned forward. Why did she not buy these vegetables? She has employment. The defender shuffled his papers. The cost is too high. The welfare office provides food, but it doesn't contain the nutrients Nalveth children need. My client filed 17 requests for dietary accommodations. All were denied. That is not an excuse for theft, the Velthari judge said. Its crystal body pulsed with light. I agree, the defender said weakly. I'm simply explaining why she did it. She was desperate. He sat down. That was it. That was her entire defense. The Quarren judge looked at Jiwoo. Does the defendant wish to speak? Jiwoo's defender started to say something, but Jiwoo stood up first. Her legs were shaking. Yes, she said. I want to speak. The judge nodded. You may address the court. Jiwoo took a deep breath. She didn't know what to say. She wasn't good at speeches. She was just a teacher who had ended up on an alien world with 3 kids who needed her. I know what I did was wrong, she began. I know stealing is against the law. I've never stolen anything before in my life. I was raised to respect other people's property. She looked at the judges. But my children were dying. Vess, the youngest, stopped eating a week ago. Her skin turned gray. The doctor said she wouldn't last much longer without the right food. Jiwoo's voice started to crack. I tried everything. I worked double shifts. I filed all the forms. I begged the welfare office. I asked everyone I could think of for help. Nobody cared. The system didn't care. They just gave me more forms to fill out. She wiped her eyes. So yes, I planned to take those vegetables. I studied the security. I waited for the right moment. Because I knew if I got caught on my first try, my children would starve before I got another chance. The courtroom was completely quiet now. Every alien was watching her. I'm not asking you to say what I did was right, Jiwoo said. I know it wasn't, but I'm asking you to understand why. I couldn't let them die. I couldn't just watch them get weaker every day while I waited for paperwork to be processed. She looked at each judge in turn. Do whatever you want to me. Deport me, ban me from the galaxy. I don't care. But please, please make sure someone takes care of my children. They didn't do anything wrong. They're just kids who need food. Jiwoo sat down. She was crying openly now, and she didn't try to hide it. The prosecutor stood up again. The defendant's story is touching, but emotion cannot override law. If we allow theft whenever someone claims desperation, society breaks down. The court will decide what it must do, the Scarth judge interrupted. Its voice was deep and firm. Prosecutor Thilax, you have made your position clear. Thilax bowed and sat down. The Velthari judge spoke next. Its voice was like wind chimes. The defendant has confessed. The evidence is clear. But there are questions that must be answered. The Quarren judge nodded. Indeed. Why does our welfare system not provide for Nalveth dietary needs? Why were 17 requests ignored? The Scarth judge looked at Jiwoo. Defendant, did you know these children before you took them into your care? Jiwoo shook her head. No. I met them at the refugee shelter. They were alone. They needed someone. The 3 judges looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Finally, the Quarren judge spoke. This court will recess for deliberation. The defendant will return to holding. We will announce our decision tomorrow morning. The guards came to take Jiwoo away. As she left the courtroom, she heard people talking. Some sounded angry. Others sounded sympathetic. She couldn't tell which side had more support. Back in her cell, Jiwoo sat on the bench and waited. She thought about Pyrrha, Calm, and Vess. She wondered if they knew what was happening. She wondered if they understood why she hadn't come home. The night was long. Jiwoo still couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Vess's gray skin and empty eyes. The next morning felt like walking to her execution. The guards brought her back to the courtroom. The same crowd was there, maybe even larger. The judges entered and took their seats. The Quarren judge spoke. This court has reached a decision. She was caught taking vegetables, but her alien kids were starving. Part 3. The Quarren judge read from a data screen. Its voice echoed through the silent courtroom. The defendant is guilty of theft. This is not disputed. However, this court recognizes that the circumstances are unusual. We sentence the defendant to 30 days of detention and full repayment of stolen property. The deportation recommendation is deferred pending investigation into colony welfare system failures. Jiwoo felt her knees go weak. 30 days. Not deportation, not a lifetime ban, just 30 days. But then the second part hit her. 30 days away from the children. Your Honor, she said quickly. What about my children? Who will take care of them? The Scarth judge answered. They will be placed in the colony's child welfare facility until your release. This is standard procedure. No, please, Jiwoo said. They can't go back there. The shelter almost killed them before. They need the Velthari judge's crystals chimed sharply. This court's decision is final. Guards, return the defendant to detention. The guards took her arms. Jiwoo wanted to fight, to scream, but what good would it do? She had lost. The children would go to the shelter, and there was nothing she could do about it. As they led her away, she heard people in the courtroom start arguing. Some thought the sentence was too light. Others thought it was too harsh. But none of them understood. None of them knew what it meant to watch a child slowly die because the system didn't care. The child welfare facility was located in the lower levels of the colony, far from the markets and nice residential areas. It was a gray building with small windows and thick doors. Everything about it said, "This is not a home." A social worker named Dae-hyun met the transport bringing Pyrrha, Calm, and Vess. He was human, in his 40s, with tired eyes and gray hair. He had worked in child welfare for 10 years on Virmius Prime. He had seen too many sad stories. The 3 Nalveth children climbed out of the transport vehicle slowly. Pyrrha held Vess in her arms. Calm stayed close to his older sister. All 3 looked terrified. Hello, Dae-hyun said in Korean, then switched to English. I'm Dae-hyun. I'll be taking care of you for a little while. Pyrrha stared at him. Where's Jiwoo? Her English was good, but her voice was small. She had to go away for a few weeks, Dae-hyun said. He tried to make his voice gentle. But she'll come back. I promise. Vess made a sound, a high-pitched whine that made Dae-hyun's heart hurt. The little one's skin was almost completely gray now. Her big eyes were dull. Come inside, Dae-hyun said. I'll show you your room. The shelter was clean but cold. Long hallways with doors on each side. Each room held 4 to 6 children, depending on their size. Dae-hyun brought the 3 Nalveth to a room with 2 beds and a small bathroom. You'll stay here, he said. Meals are at 8, 1, and 6. If you need anything, press this button. He showed them a call button on the wall. Then he left them alone. Pyrrha put Vess on one of the beds. The little one curled up into a ball and didn't move. Calm sat next to her, holding her small hand. Is Jiwoo really coming back? Calm asked. Pyrrha wanted to say yes. She wanted to promise. But she remembered the first shelter, before Jiwoo. She remembered the adults who had promised things and then disappeared. She remembered watching other children wait for parents who never came. I don't know, Pyrrha said honestly. Over the next 3 days, things got worse. Vess stopped making sounds. She just lay on the bed, barely breathing. Calm stopped talking. He sat next to Vess all day, every day, not moving. Pyrrha tried to eat the food they brought, but it was the same synthetic paste they had eaten before Jiwoo. It tasted like nothing and made her stomach hurt. She forced herself to swallow it anyway because she needed to stay strong for her siblings. The shelter was full of other children. Dozens of species, all orphaned or abandoned. Some were sick. Some were angry. Some just sat and stared at walls. The staff tried their best, but there were too many children and not enough people. Dae-hyun came to check on them every day. He brought different foods, trying to find something Vess would eat. Nothing worked. The little Nalveth just turned her head away. On the fourth day, Dae-hyun sat down with Pira. "Tell me about Jiwoo," he said. "What did she do that made you feel better?" Pira thought about it. "She sang to us at night. She held our hands. She said our names and told us we were safe." "Did she give you special food?" "Yes, green vegetables. The ones from the market. Vess ate those." Dae-hyun made notes on his datapad. "What else?" "She was just there," Pira said. "Every morning when we woke up. Every night before bed. She was always there." Dae-hyun nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand something. That evening, after his shift ended, Dae-hyun went to the detention center. He requested access to Jiwoo's file. Most social workers didn't bother with this kind of research, but Dae-hyun was different. He believed that understanding the whole story was important. The file took hours to read. Jiwoo's employment records showed double and sometimes triple shifts at the water recycling plant. Her bank statements showed almost every credit going to the children. She had bought clothes for them, medicine for them, special foods that cost 10 times what normal food cost. She had filed 17 formal requests with the colony administration over 6 months, each one asking for dietary accommodations for Nalveth children. Each one denied because of budget constraints or missing documentation or processing delays. She had gone to 5 different doctors, trying to find help for Vess. 3 had told her there was nothing they could do without authorization from the welfare office. 1 had given her samples of supplements, but they ran out after a week. The 5th had told her bluntly that the child would die without proper nutrition. Dae-hyun found medical records showing Jiwoo herself had lost 15 pounds in the last 3 months. She had been skipping meals to save money for the children. He found community forum posts where she had asked other humans for help. Some had sent small donations. Others had given advice. But nobody had been able to solve the fundamental problem. The system didn't provide what Nalveth children needed, and Jiwoo couldn't afford to buy it herself. Dae-hyun sat back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. This woman had done everything right. She had followed every rule, filled out every form, asked every official channel for help. The system had failed her at every step, and now 3 children were suffering because of it. He started writing a report. Not the standard case summary that welfare offices required, a real report, detailed, documented. He included copies of every denied request, every medical record, every bank statement. He showed exactly how the system had failed. He sent the report to the tribunal judges. Then he sent copies to the colony administrator, the welfare office director, and 3 journalists he knew. By the next morning, Vess's condition had become critical. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin was cold to the touch. Pira sat next to her, crying silently. Calm had his head on Vess's chest, listening to her heartbeat. Dae-hyun rushed the little one to the medical center. Doctors swarmed around her, running tests and trying different treatments. But nothing worked. Vess's body was shutting down. "We need the guardian," one doctor said. "This child is suffering from more than malnutrition. She's experiencing severe emotional trauma. Her species bonds deeply with caretakers. Without that bond, her body is giving up." "The guardian is in detention," Dae-hyun said. "Then get her out," the doctor snapped. "Or this child will die." Dae-hyun pulled out his communication device and called every contact he had. He called the tribunal. He called the colony administrator. He even called the media. "A child is dying," he told them, "and you can prevent it." In her cell, Jiwoo had no idea what was happening. She counted the days on the wall. Day 5 of 30. 25 more days until she could go home. She tried not to think about the children, tried not to imagine them alone in the shelter. But her mind kept showing her Vess's face, those big eyes, that trusting smile. Please let them be okay, she prayed to whatever might be listening. Please. Then the cell door opened. A guard stood there with an urgent expression. "Come with me," he said. "Now." She was caught taking vegetables, but her alien kids were starving. Part 4 Jiwoo ran through the corridors of the medical center. Guards ran beside her, but they weren't holding her anymore. They were just trying to keep up. The moment she had heard Vess was dying, nothing else mattered. Not the trial. Not the sentence. Not the law. The medical center was bright and sterile. Machines beeped everywhere. Doctors and nurses moved between rooms, treating patients from 100 different worlds. Each species had different needs, different medicines, different ways of staying alive. Room 347, a nurse called out, pointing down a hallway. Jiwoo burst through the door. The room was full of medical equipment. Monitors showed vital signs in colors she didn't understand. And there, on a bed designed for beings much larger than her, was Vess. The little Nalveth looked so small. Her skin was almost white now, not even gray anymore. Tubes ran from her arms. A breathing mask covered her face. Pyrrha and Calm sat in chairs next to the bed, holding each other. Jiwoo, Pyrrha cried out and jumped up. Jiwoo rushed to the bed. She took Vess's tiny hand in hers. The skin was cold and dry. "I'm here, baby," she whispered. "I'm here now." For a long moment, nothing happened. The monitors kept beeping their slow, weak rhythm. Vess didn't move. Then slowly, one of Vess's eyes opened. It was still dull, but there was something there. Recognition. Hope. "Mama," Vess breathed. The word was in her own language, but Jiwoo understood it. She gathered the little one into her arms, careful of all the tubes. "I'm so sorry," Jiwoo said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry I left you." Colum and Pyrrha pressed against her sides. All three children held on to her like she might disappear again. A doctor stood nearby, watching her monitor screens. She was human too, a woman named Unji with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had been studying the readings for hours, trying to understand why nothing was working. Now she watched as the numbers on the screens began to change. Vess's heart rate was increasing. Her breathing was getting stronger. The oxygen levels in her blood were rising. "Fascinating," Dr. Yoonji muttered. "What's happening?" Daehyun asked. He stood in the doorway, having followed Jiwoo from the detention center. "Look at the bio readings," Dr. Yoonji said, pointing to the screens. "Her body is responding. Not to the medicine, to the emotional stimulus." She moved closer to the bed, scanning Vess with a handheld device. "The Nalveth are deeply social creatures. I've been reading their medical literature. Their physiology is linked to emotional bonding at a cellular level. When they feel safe and loved, their bodies work properly. When they feel abandoned, their systems start to shut down." "Like dying of a broken heart?" Daehyun asked. "More literal than that," Dr. Yoonji said. "Their immune systems are tied to their emotional state. So is their digestion, their metabolism, everything. This child wasn't just sad. Her body was actually failing because the emotional connection was broken." She looked at Jiwoo, who was still holding Vess and whispering soft words. "This human's presence is triggering a physiological response. The child's body recognizes safety and is starting to heal." Daehyun pulled out his datapad and started recording. "This is important. The tribunal needs to see this." Over the next hour, Vess improved dramatically. Color returned to her skin. She drank some water. She even smiled weakly at Jiwoo. The doctor ran more tests. She checked and double-checked her findings. Then she called the tribunal judges. "You need to see this," she told them. An emergency hearing was scheduled for that evening. Jiwoo was allowed to stay with the children until then, with guards watching from the doorway. She sat on the hospital bed with all three kids pressed against her, and she didn't let go for a second. Pyrrha told her everything that had happened at the shelter. The cold rooms, the tasteless food, how Vess had stopped eating and Calm had stopped talking. "I thought you weren't coming back," Pyrrha said quietly. "I thought it would be like before when Mom and Dad died." Jiwoo hugged her tighter. "I will always come back for you, always, no matter what." "Promise?" Calm asked. "I promise." When evening came, they returned to the courthouse. But this time it was different. Jiwoo wasn't in the defendant's box. She sat at a table with Daehyun beside her. The children were in the hospital being watched by nurses, but Dr. Yoonji was here to speak. The courtroom was even more crowded than before. Word had spread about what happened. Humans from all over the colony had come to watch. Other species came too, curious about what the judges would decide. A human woman named Bora sat in the front row. She ran a small organization called The Reach, which helped people when the official systems failed. She had heard about Jiwoo's case and had been following it closely. The three judges took their seats. The Scarth judge spoke first. "This hearing has been called to review new evidence. Dr. Yoonji, please present your findings." The doctor stood and activated a holographic display. Medical charts and data filled the air above the courtroom floor. "I have been treating the Nalveth child called Vess," Dr. Yoonji began. When she arrived at the medical center, she was in critical condition. We tried standard treatments. None of them worked. Her body was shutting down and we couldn't figure out why. She pointed to the charts. Then we brought in Jiwoo, the guardian. Within minutes, the child's vital signs began to improve. Her immune system reactivated. Her metabolism stabilized. She began to heal. The Quarren judge leaned forward. You are saying the presence of the guardian caused medical improvement? Yes, Dr. Yoonji said firmly. I've spent the afternoon researching Nalveth biology. Their species evolved in tight family groups. They have a biological need for emotional bonding. Without it, their bodies literally fail. It's not psychology. It's physiology. She showed more data. Brain scans, hormone levels, chemical markers. This child was dying because she felt abandoned, Dr. Yoonji said. No amount of medicine could fix that. Only the presence of someone she trusted and loved could trigger her body to heal. The Velthari judge's crystals hummed. This suggests that removing the children from the guardian's care caused their medical crisis. Not just suggests, Dr. Yoonji said. Proves. The welfare shelter, despite its best efforts, cannot provide what these children need. They need a dedicated caregiver who bonds with them. They need what humans call a parent. She looked at Jiwoo. This woman saved their lives. And when we separated them, we nearly killed them. The courtroom erupted in noise. People arguing, discussing, shouting. The Scarth judge had to call for order 3 times before everyone quieted down. Dae-hyun stood up next. Honored judges, I have compiled a comprehensive report on this case. May I present it? The judges agreed. Dae-hyun's report appeared on the holographic display, page after page of evidence. Jiwoo did everything our system required, he said. She filed requests. She followed procedures. She asked for help through proper channels. And at every step the system failed her. He showed the 17 denied requests. The budget reports explaining why accommodations couldn't be made. The forms that had been lost or delayed. The colony welfare system is designed for efficiency, not for individual needs. Dae-hyun said. It works well for most species. But for cases like this, where children need something specific, it breaks down. He pulled up more data. There are 43 other cases like this in our records. Children with special needs that the standard system doesn't address. Most of them died waiting for help. The silence in the courtroom was heavy now. Uncomfortable. What are you proposing? The Quarren judge asked. Reform, Dae-hyun said. We need a new system for special cases. We need caregivers who can bond with children who need it. And we need to stop punishing people like Jiwoo who do what the system should have done. Bora stood up from her seat. Honored judges, may I speak? The Scarth judge nodded. My organization, the Reach, would like to support these reforms, Bora said. We've already started a fund to help Jiwoo and the children. In one day, we've raised 50,000 credits from humans across the colony. She smiled. Humans take care of children. Any children. It's what we do. She was caught taking vegetables, but her alien kids were starving. Part 5. The news about Jiwoo spread across the colony faster than anyone expected. Within 2 days, everyone on Vermis Prime knew her story. The video of her testimony had been shared thousands of times. Her simple words echoed everywhere. They needed someone. Bora's organization, The Reach, set up a community center in the human district. People came by with donations. Money, food, clothes, supplies. More than Jiwoo could ever use. So Bora started a fund to help other families in similar situations. This isn't just about one woman and 3 kids, Bora told her volunteers. This is about showing the galaxy that we don't abandon children. Ever. A journalist named Hyun Soo wrote articles about the case. He ran a small news outlet that covered human interest stories on the colony. His articles were detailed and honest, showing both the failures of the system and the strength of the human community's response. But not everyone was happy about the attention. In the merchant district, a powerful Velthari named Christor called a meeting. He owned several businesses and had influence in the colony government. This human is being treated like a hero, Christor said to the assembled merchants. But she broke the law. If we allow emotion to override commerce, everything falls apart. Several other merchants agreed. They were worried about the precedent. If one person could steal and get away with it, what would stop others? We need to show the tribunal that the business community stands firm, said another merchant. The law must mean something. They drafted a formal statement demanding stricter enforcement. They gathered signatures from hundreds of business owners. They presented it to the colony administration. The human community heard about this and responded. They organized a peaceful demonstration outside the courthouse. Hundreds of humans gathered, holding signs that said children first and love is not a crime. Other species joined them. A group of Scarth workers who had human friends stood at the back. Several Quarren families who had seen Jiwoo's kindness came to show support. Even a few Veltari, though not many, quietly added their voices. The colony was dividing. Some saw Jiwoo as a criminal who needed punishment. Others saw her as someone who did what anyone should do when children are in danger. In the hospital, Jiwoo tried to ignore the chaos outside. She focused on the children. Vess was getting stronger every day. The little one could sit up now and was starting to eat solid food, again. Dr. Yoonji had prescribed a specific diet of vegetables that contained the nutrients Nalveth needed. The Reach is paying for everything, Daehyun told Jiwoo. You don't need to worry about money anymore. I don't understand, Jiwoo said. Why are people helping me? They don't even know me. Because you're human, Daehyun said simply, and humans help each other, especially when children are involved. But not everyone in the human community agreed with that. Jiwoo received messages through the hospital's communication system. Some were supportive. Others were harsh. One message said, "You make all humans look bad. You should have worked harder instead of stealing." Another said, "My taxes pay for the welfare system. Why should your kids get special treatment?" Jiwoo tried not to let the negative messages hurt her, but they did. She had never wanted to be famous. She had just wanted to feed her children. Pyrrha noticed her sadness. "Are you okay?" the little girl asked. Jiwoo forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetie. Just tired. The people outside are fighting about you," Pyrrha said. "I heard the nurses talking." "I know. Are we causing trouble?" Jiwoo pulled Pyrrha close. "No, never. You three are not trouble. You're my family." On the 5th day after the emergency hearing, something unexpected happened. A Scarth merchant named Velshir requested to meet with Jiwoo. He was one of the business owners who had signed the petition against her. Daehyun arranged the meeting in a private room at the hospital. Velshir arrived with a human translator, though his English was actually quite good. "Thank you for seeing me," Velshir said. His scales were dark green and he wore fine clothes. "I know I am not welcome. Why did you come?" Jiwoo asked. Velshir sat down heavily. "I signed the petition against you. I believed you were a criminal who needed punishment. I believed in the law above all else." He paused, looking uncomfortable. "But last night I received news from my homeworld. My son was in an accident. He nearly died, and the person who saved him was a human doctor who broke protocol to try an experimental treatment." Jiwoo waited. "The treatment worked," Velshir continued. "My son is alive because a human decided that saving a life was more important than following rules." He looked at Jiwoo with something that might have been shame. "I realized I was a hypocrite. I wanted that human doctor to break the rules for my child, but I wanted you punished for breaking rules for your children. So what do you want from me?" Jiwoo asked. "Nothing," Velshir said. "I came to apologize, and to withdraw my support from the petition. I will speak to the other merchants and explain my change of heart." He stood up to leave, then turned back. "What you did was illegal, but it was also right. I am beginning to understand that sometimes those two things are not the same." After he left, Jiwoo sat in silence for a long time. She thought about laws and rules and what they meant. She had always believed in following them, but she also believed in protecting children. When those two things conflicted, which was more important, she didn't have an answer. She just knew that seeing Vess's smile was worth any punishment. Over the next week, more merchants changed their positions. Velshir spoke to many of them, telling his story. Others had their own reasons for reconsidering. Some had children, some had been helped by humans before, some just realized that the law wasn't always right. The petition against Jiwoo lost support, but a different problem emerged. The colony administration announced that they would investigate the Reach for potential legal violations. Bora's organization had been operating in a gray area, providing services that overlapped with official welfare programs. Some officials saw this as competition, others saw it as criticism of their own failures. "They're trying to shut us down," Bora told her volunteers at an emergency meeting. "They've frozen our accounts. They're auditing every transaction. They want to find something illegal so they can close us. What do we do? Someone asked. We keep working, Bora said firmly. We help every person who comes to us, and we make sure everyone knows what's happening. The administration thinks they can quietly make us disappear. We'll show them that humans don't disappear quietly. Hyun-soo published articles about the investigation. He detailed every step the administration took against the Reach. He interviewed families who had been helped by Bora's organization. He showed exactly how many children would suffer if the Reach was forced to close. The pressure on the colony administration grew. The demonstrations outside the courthouse got bigger. Humans were angry, and they were starting to organize in ways the administration hadn't seen before. But there was also a backlash. Some aliens felt that humans were becoming too demanding, too loud. They complained that humans acted like their way was the only way, that they didn't respect other species' customs and laws. Humans think emotion is more important than order, one Veltari official said in an interview. They don't understand that society needs structure. Without rules, there is chaos. The debate spread beyond Vermis Prime. Other human colonies heard about Jiwoo. Other alien worlds watched to see what would happen. Some saw it as proof that humans were too unstable for galactic society. Others saw it as proof that humans had something valuable to offer. In the middle of all this, Jiwoo just tried to take care of her children. The hospital finally discharged Vess after 2 weeks. All 3 children were healthy again, but they still couldn't go home. The tribunal hasn't made a final decision, Daehyun explained. You're technically still serving your sentence. The children have to stay in welfare custody. But they're with me here, Jiwoo said, looking at the children playing in the hospital room. Yes, but this is considered medical custody, not home, Daehyun said. It's complicated. Everything was complicated now. Jiwoo's simple act of stealing vegetables had turned into a political crisis. She hadn't wanted any of this. She had just wanted her kids to be okay. When will this end? She asked Daehyun. Soon, he said. The tribunal is meeting tomorrow to make a final ruling. On everything. That night, Jiwoo couldn't sleep. The children were curled up together on a hospital bed, peaceful and safe. But tomorrow, everything might change again. She thought about going back to detention. She thought about the children going back to the shelter. She thought about all the people fighting over what should happen to her, and she prayed that whatever the judges decided, her children would be okay. She was caught taking vegetables, but her alien kids were starving. Part 6. The courtroom was so crowded that security had to turn people away. Every seat was filled. People stood along the walls. News crews from a dozen different outlets set up cameras. This wasn't just about 1 human and 3 alien children anymore. This was about what kind of society Vermis Prime wanted to be. Jiwoo sat at the defendant's table again, but this time she had support. Daehyun sat on one side. Bora sat on the other. Behind them were dozens of humans who had come to show their support. Dr. Yoonji was there too, ready to testify again if needed. The 3 children sat in a special section with a nurse watching them. Vess looked healthy now, her skin bright blue and glowing. She waved at Jiwoo, who waved back with tears in her eyes. The 3 judges entered. The room went silent immediately. Everyone knew this was the moment that would decide everything. The Quarren judge spoke first. This tribunal has reviewed all evidence and testimony regarding the case of Jiwoo, human resident of Vermis Prime. We have also reviewed the broader issues raised by this case. The judge paused, looking at the packed courtroom. This case has revealed serious flaws in our colony's welfare system. Children with special needs are not being properly served. Requests for help are being ignored or delayed. And when someone takes action to save a child's life, our response is punishment. Some aliens in the audience shifted uncomfortably. Others nodded in agreement. However, the judge continued, we cannot ignore that laws were broken. Theft occurred. Security systems were tampered with. If we allow such actions without consequence, we undermine the foundation of our society. Jiwoo's heart sank. She knew what was coming. More punishment. Maybe deportation after all. But then the Scarth judge spoke. We have consulted with legal experts from multiple species. We have reviewed case law from across the Galactic Commerce Union, and we have concluded that this situation requires a new approach. The judge looked directly at Jiwoo. Your actions were illegal, but they were also necessary. The fault lies not with you, but with a system that forced you to choose between law and life. The Velthari judge's crystals chimed. Therefore, this tribunal makes the following rulings. First, your sentence of 30 days detention is reduced to time already served. You are free to go. Gasps went through the courtroom. Jiwoo couldn't believe what she was hearing. Second, the Quarren judge said, you are granted full legal custody of the 3 Nalveth children. The welfare office will provide monthly support payments to cover their special dietary needs. Third, the Scarth judge continued, the colony administration is ordered to reform its welfare system within 90 days. A special committee will be formed to address cases requiring individual attention. Human caregivers will be recruited and trained for children who need emotional bonding. The Velthari judge added, fourth, the Reach organization will be cleared of all investigations. Their work is recognized as valuable community service. They will receive official licensing to operate as a supplementary welfare provider. Finally, the Quarren judge said, this tribunal apologizes. We apologize to Jiwoo for a system that failed her. We apologize to the Nalveth children for putting them in danger. And we apologize to the entire community for not seeing these problems sooner. The courtroom exploded with noise. People cheering, arguing, crying. The guards had to maintain order as the emotions overflowed. Jiwoo sat frozen. She couldn't process it. Free. The children were hers. Everything was going to be okay. Pyrrha, Colum, and Vess ran to her, the nurse unable to stop them. Jiwoo gathered all 3 into her arms and held them tight. We're going home, she whispered. We're really going home. But even as celebration erupted in parts of the courtroom, there was resistance in others. Christor, the Velthari merchant who had led the opposition, stood up. Honored judges, he said loudly, I respect this court's decision, but I believe it sets a dangerous precedent. If emotion can override law when the situation is difficult enough, where does it end? How do we maintain order? The Scarth judge looked at him. You raise a valid concern. But consider this. Our laws exist to protect and serve our citizens. When our laws fail to do that, when they force good people to break them to prevent harm, then our laws are the problem, not the people. Laws must have flexibility, the Quarren judge added. They must serve life, not the other way around. This ruling does not say theft is acceptable. It says that when our systems fail, we must fix the systems, not punish those who tried to survive them. Christor sat down slowly. He didn't look happy, but he didn't argue further. Over the next few days, the colony transformed. The tribunal's ruling had opened a floodgate. Families who had been struggling in silence came forward. Parents who had been afraid to ask for help suddenly found doors opening. Bora's organization grew rapidly. Dozens of humans volunteered to become caregivers. They were trained in alien biology, cultural customs, and the specific needs of different species. The colony administration, under pressure from the tribunal, provided resources and support. A Quarren child who needed constant physical contact was matched with a human caregiver named Minji. Within a week, the child's health improved dramatically. A young Scarth who had been in and out of medical facilities for emotional problems was placed with a human couple. They gave him structure and attention, and he began to thrive. More cases emerged. The welfare system had been failing children for years, and now the problems were finally being addressed. But change brought tension. Some aliens resented the sudden prominence of humans in childcare. They felt that humans were taking over, imposing their values on other species. Why should human emotion be the standard? One Velthari asked in a public forum. Our species values logic and order. We raise our young differently. Are humans saying our way is wrong? Bora attended that forum. She stood up to respond. No, she said firmly. Human caregivers are not here to replace your customs. We're here to help in cases where emotional bonding is biologically necessary. Many species are like us. They need connection to survive. We're just offering what we're naturally good at. And what happens to our children? The Velthari pressed. Will they grow up thinking human ways are superior? They'll grow up alive, Bora said. That's what matters. We're not trying to change anyone's culture. We're trying to save children who would otherwise die. The debate continued for weeks. But slowly, as more success stories emerged, the resistance began to fade. Even the most skeptical aliens couldn't argue with results. Children were healthier. Families were more stable. The welfare system was working better for everyone. Jiwoo stayed out of the public debates. She had never wanted to be a symbol or a leader. She just wanted to be a mom. She returned to work at the water recycling plant. though she reduced her hours to spend more time with the children. Her HAB unit was still small and cramped, but the reach had helped her upgrade to a slightly larger space. The children had their own room now. They had toys and books and everything they needed. Life slowly returned to normal, or at least a new kind of normal. One evening, Jiwoo was making dinner when someone knocked on her door. She opened it to find Velshire, the scarf merchant who had apologized to her weeks ago. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said. "Not at all. Come in." Velshire entered, looking around the modest home. The children watched him curiously from their room. "I wanted to thank you," Velshire said. "Thank me?"
For what?
"For showing me something I'd forgotten," he said. "I've been in business for 40 years. I've made a lot of money. I've followed every rule perfectly, but I lost sight of why rules exist. They exist to protect people, especially the vulnerable." He pulled out a data pad. "I've established a fund for families like yours, situations where the official system doesn't work fast enough. It's not charity, it's insurance. Because I never want another child to suffer while paperwork gets processed." Jiwoo didn't know what to say. "That's very generous." "It's necessary," Velshire said. "And I'm not the only one. 5 other merchants have contributed. We're calling it the Emergency Child Welfare Fund. Taehyun will administer it." After he left, Jiwoo sat down on her worn couch. The children came out to join her, cuddling against her sides. "Was that man angry at you before?" Pira asked. "Yes," Jiwoo said. "But he's not anymore?" "No. People can change their minds when they learn new things." Calm looked up at her. "Are we still in trouble?" Jiwoo kissed his forehead. "No, sweetie. We're not in trouble anymore. We're safe." Bess climbed into her lap. "Home?" "Yes, baby. We're home." That night, after the children were asleep, Jiwoo stood at her small window looking out at the colony. Lights from thousands of homes sparkled in the darkness. Ships came and went from the spaceport. The colony was alive with activity. Somewhere out there, other children were being helped because of what had happened. Other families were finding support. The system was changing slowly but surely. Jiwoo hadn't planned any of this. She had just tried to feed her kids. But sometimes small acts of love could change everything. She thought about the future, about Pira growing up and maybe becoming a teacher herself, about Colum learning to build things with his clever hands, about Vess smiling and laughing and being healthy. They had a chance now, a real chance, and that was worth everything she had been through. She was caught taking vegetables, but her alien kids were starving. Part 76 months passed. The colony had changed in ways both big and small. The welfare reforms were in place now with real results. Children who had been struggling were thriving. Families who had been invisible were finally being seen. Jiwoo walked through the market on a Saturday morning. The same market where she had been caught stealing. But everything was different now. She carried a shopping bag and a list. The children walked beside her, excited to help pick out food for the week. The vegetable merchant who had reported her was still there. His name was Tilvar, and he nodded at her as she approached. It wasn't exactly friendship, but it wasn't hostility either. It was respect between two people who had learned something from each other. "Good morning," Jiwoo said. "Morning," Tilvar replied. "The usual vegetables?" "Yes, please. And some of those purple fruits. Vess likes them." Tilvar packed the items carefully. "I heard your daughter started school." "All 3 of them did," Jiwoo said with pride. "Pira is top of her class. Calm loves science. Vess is making friends." "Good. Children should be in school." He handed her the bag. "On the house today." "I can pay," Jiwoo said, "I know. But let an old merchant do something nice once in a while." Jiwoo accepted the gift with gratitude. As she left with the children, she noticed something she had never seen before. Several other alien children were shopping with human caregivers. The program had grown far beyond what anyone expected. At the Reaches Community Center, Bora was in a meeting with colony officials. They were discussing expansion. The program's success on Vermis Prime had attracted attention from other colonies. 3 different worlds had requested help setting up similar systems. "We need more trained caregivers," one official said. "Can we recruit more humans?" "We have a waiting list of volunteers," Bora said. "But training takes time. Each species is different. Each child is unique. We can't rush it." "What about other species?" another official asked. "Some Quarren have expressed interest in becoming caregivers." "That's great," Bora said. "This isn't about humans being the only ones who can do this. It's about finding people with the right skills and temperament. If Quarren can provide the emotional support these children need, we should absolutely train them. The program was evolving. What had started as a human response to a crisis was becoming something bigger, a new model for welfare that recognized both structure and compassion. Dae-hyun had been promoted to director of the new Special Needs Division. He worked long hours, but he loved it. Every day brought new challenges and new success stories. He visited Ji-woo's home regularly to check on the children. It was technically still required, but it had become more like friendly visits. He would bring small gifts for the kids and share a cup of tea with Ji-woo. "Have you heard the latest news?" he asked during one visit. "What news?" "The Galactic Commerce Union is studying our program. They're considering recommending it for implementation across all member worlds." Ji-woo's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" What happened here started a conversation across the galaxy about how we care for children, about what matters most. "I never wanted to start a conversation," Ji-woo said. "I just wanted to feed my kids." "I know," Dae-hyun said. "But that's exactly why it mattered. You didn't do it for glory or attention. You did it because it was right. But not everything was perfect. There were still critics. Some aliens felt that humans were changing their society too much. There were opinion pieces and debates about human influence on alien cultures. One evening, Ji-woo was invited to speak at a public forum about the welfare program. She almost said no. She hated public speaking. But Bora convinced her. "People need to hear from you," Bora said. "Not as a symbol, but as a person. They need to understand why this matters." So Ji-woo stood on a stage in front of hundreds of aliens and humans. Her hands were shaking. Her voice was quiet at first. "I'm not a hero," she began. "I'm just a mom. I did what any parent would do when their child is in danger. I broke the law and I accept that it was wrong. But I would do it again if I had to." She looked at the crowd. "Some of you think humans are trying to take over. We're not. We're just trying to help. Because when we see a child suffering, we can't look away. It's not about being better than you. It's about being who we are. But what about our cultures?" Someone in the audience called out. "You're changing how we do things. Only for children who need it," Ji-woo said. "If your way of raising children works for your species, that's wonderful. Keep doing it. But some children, like mine, need something different. And there's no shame in that," she continued. "Before I took in Pira, Calm, and Vess, they were dying in a shelter. Not because anyone was cruel. Not because anyone didn't care. But because the system wasn't built for them. Now they're healthy and happy. That's all that matters to me." An older Velthari stood up. "How do we know this won't dilute our values? That our children won't become too human? Because you'll still be their parents," Ji-woo said. "Or their teachers or their community. Human caregivers are just one part of a child's life. We don't replace your culture. We support the child until they're strong enough to fully participate in it." The forum went on for 2 hours. By the end, Ji-woo was exhausted. But she felt like maybe, just maybe, she had helped some people understand. Weeks later, Ji-woo received a message from an unexpected source. A young Quarren woman wanted to meet her. Her name was Lixa, and she had a story to tell. They met at a cafe near the market. Lixa was nervous, her 4 hands fidgeting with a cup of tea. "I heard about what you did," Lixa said, "and it gave me courage to do something I was afraid to do." "What's that?" Ji-woo asked. "I adopted a human child." Ji-woo's surprise must have shown on her face because Lixa laughed. "I know everyone is surprised. Quarren adopting human, but this little girl, her name is Subin. She lost her parents in a transport accident. She was in the human section of the shelter, but she wasn't doing well. Too many children, not enough attention. How is she now?" Ji-woo asked. "She's wonderful," Lixa said, smiling with all her eyes. "Different from what I expected. Loud, energetic, always asking questions. But she's happy, and she calls me Mom now in her own language." She looked at Ji-woo seriously. "You showed us that family isn't about species. It's about love and commitment. I wanted to thank you for that." After Lixa left, Ji-woo sat for a while thinking about how far things had come. Humans caring for alien children. Aliens caring for human children. The galaxy was changing. That evening, Ji-woo made dinner as usual. The children set the table, arguing about whose turn it was to choose the music. Normal family chaos. Normal family love. A knock came at the door. Ji-woo opened it to find a young Quarren woman she didn't recognize. The alien looked desperate. "Are you Ji-woo?" she asked. "Yes, I heard about what you did. How you saved your children. I need help. My child is sick and the doctors say they can't do anything, but I don't believe them. Can you come in? Jiwoo said immediately. Tell me everything. The woman explained her situation. Her child needed a treatment that wasn't approved yet. The medical board was taking too long to review it. Every day they waited, her child got worse. Jiwoo listened carefully. Then she pulled out her communication device. I know some people who can help. Give me a few minutes. She called Dr. Yoonji first, then Daehyun, then Bora. Each of them had connections and resources. Within an hour, they had a plan. The child could be enrolled in a medical trial that the board had already approved for similar conditions. It was a long shot, but it was a chance. The Quarren woman cried with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. After she left, Pyrrha looked at Jiwoo curiously. Do you help everyone who comes here? I try, Jiwoo said, because that's what humans do. Jiwoo thought about it. Because that's what people should do. All people, human or alien. When someone needs help, you help if you can. I want to be like you when I grow up, Pyrrha said. Jiwoo hugged her. You already are, sweetie. You're kind and caring and brave. That's all anyone needs to be. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Jiwoo stood at her window again. She thought about the woman who had come to her door, about Lixa and her adopted human daughter, about all the families across the colony who were learning that love didn't have boundaries. The trial had been 6 months ago, but it felt like a lifetime. She had been a different person then, desperate, alone, afraid. Now she was part of something bigger, a community, a movement, a change in how the galaxy thought about family and care. She thought about the vegetables she had stolen. Such a small thing, 4 vegetables from a market stall, but that small act had rippled outward in ways she never could have imagined. Her communication device buzzed. It was a message from the Galactic Commerce Union. They wanted to interview her for their official report on welfare reform. They wanted to know if she would be willing to speak to representatives from other worlds. Jiwoo smiled and sent a reply. Yes, if it helps children, I'll do it. She looked back at the bedroom where her 3 children slept peacefully. Pyrrha was probably dreaming about school. Calm was clutching his favorite toy. Vess was curled up in the middle, safe and warm. This was what mattered. Not the laws or the debates or the politics. This moment of peace. This feeling of home.